Hey, welcome back to another episode of Furious Tinkering with Steve. I wanted to today build a floating frame, which is a type of picture frame for a picture I picked up at a secondhand store for $1. Here it is. I think it's pretty cool, especially for $1. You can't go wrong with that. So anyways, if you're not familiar with this type of picture frame I'm going to be building, you can follow along and hopefully build one for something around your house if you want to. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a measurement of the I guess length or width or whatever. It's a perfect square, so it measures 22 1/4 inches on each side. And so yeah, basically I've got a piece of cedar wood here, about 6 inches across, and yeah, so I'm going to cut it in half, which is going to be more than long enough to go on any one of these four sides. So we're going to start there. Safety first. That has such a nice smell. It smells like a sauna. Perfect. Okay, so now that I've got these two pieces cut to length, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the table saw, and then I'm going to rip them into strips so that I have, actually I've got a piece here, I'll show you what I mean. So the idea is we're going to be building four sides that are basically like this. So this is going to be your outside edge, and then the picture, let me get the, so the picture is going to sit with a small gap here, giving it the illusion that the picture is kind of suspended. Anyway, so yeah, it'll kind of make more sense as we go along. But if you're unfamiliar with this style of picture frame called a floating frame, do look it up on Google and you'll find pictures that do it better justice than what I'm trying to explain right now, but it will turn out nicely. So yeah, follow along and we'll just we'll progress through this together. Okay, so what I wanted to discuss next is basically how do you know how wide to rip these strips now that we've got our table saw set up, which is just over here. I'll set the camera up afterwards, but in order to figure out how wide to rip these strips of wood, what you need to do is you need to measure how thick the wood is. So if we can get a clear shot, you'll see that it's about 3/4 of an inch. And then the next measurement that you need to add on to that is how thick the picture is. So in this case, we are dealing with a picture that is 3/4 of an inch as well. So now we're at 3/4 for the thickness of the wood and 3/4 for the thickness of the picture frame, puts us at 1.5. I like to have the picture recessed inside the frame about another 1/8 of an inch. So instead of cutting the strips at 1.5, I'm going to cut them at 1 5/8. So I'm going to set up the saw here for 1 5/8, and once I've done that, we'll rip these strips together. Actually, the other thing I wanted to just mention here, whenever you're using a table saw, make sure that you secure it to the bench or the table wherever you're using this thing. I use 2 of these DeWalt bar clamps. They work really well. They're not too expensive, but they are certainly a good idea if you want to avoid the saw moving while you're using it. So again, just taking the time to set up a safe work area is always a good investment of your time. So we said 1 5/8. Okay, so now that the depth on the saw, or the width of the saw is set, I'm going to cut 4 pieces at 1 5/8 wide. We'll do that right now. Get some pretty cool patterns there among the 4 pieces. So anyways, now that we've got those 4 pieces cut, the next thing that we need to do is, so as I mentioned, this floating frame consists of 2 pieces that are going to be glued and then pin nailed together. So the piece that we just cut is this piece. So the picture is going to sit in here like this, but you are going to have a small gap here. And so what I've done a couple of these now around the house, and what I've found is that what you want, so that in my opinion the gap isn't too big or too small, you want to have about a 1/4 inch of a gap on all 4 sides of the picture. So what that means is that I need to basically have, well, this calculation kind of comes in later, but as long as by the time you consider you've got a 1/4 inch gap here, you have enough wood left over in this area so that you can drive a screw in from the back side into the back of the picture frame, should be all set. So what I have been doing is, what I've got here is kind of the leftover piece, and it is 3 3/4 inch wide. So by my calculations, that would be like 1 7/8. I could mark and then cut right down the middle. So 1 7/8. Let me just mark that real quick and see if my mathematics are on par here. Let's have a look. Uh-oh. 1 7/8 puts us there. Yeah, it's pretty close. So I think what I'm going to do is set the blade thickness or width here at 1 7/8, and this time I'm setting it at 1 7/8 to the center of the blade. Now, if you're familiar with carpentry, you understand that there's a difference between marking a piece of wood and cutting it on the side of the blade versus in the middle. It does make a difference because your blade is about 1/8 inch thick, depending, but pretty much as a standard rule of thumb, your blade is 1/8 inch thick. So if you don't take that into account, you're going to end up either too short or too long, or not really where you want to be. So anyways, get my earmuffs on again, and we're going to cut these next 4 pieces. Be right back. So again, that kind of cut some nice patterns, or the grain of the wood, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Looks good. Okay, so what I need to do now is just put away these saws and everything like that, and I'm going to set up the air compressor with the pin nailer and the glue, and we'll get all these clamped together, you know, putting the 2 pieces together. We'll do all that, and then I'm going to let that set up for the night. Okay, so I've got my pieces here. The first batch that I cut are these ones that are 1 5/8 wide. So these are going to be the outside edge of the frame, right? So you're going to have those on the outside edge, and then these ones are going to be kind of nailed onto the back, or onto the side, I should say, of that. So it's going to look basically like that, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to use a pin nailer, and this is a 23 gauge pin nailer. I'll bring it over there so you can have a look. This is an Amazon special. It's made by a company here called Canadian Tool and Supply. It's a good tool. The only thing or criticism I do have about it is that most pneumatic nailers and staplers do have some kind of a safety device on the tip here, so that you actually have to depress that before you can pull the trigger. This is not like that. So right now, if I just pull this trigger, it will fire a nail out. So you do have to kind of be a little bit careful with that, but it does work good, so I'm happy with it. So you're going to need a pin nailer. The other reason you want to use this as opposed to like an 18 gauge brad nailer is because the size of the nail is going to leave a proportional hole in the wood. So bigger the hole, you got to use wood filler and all this. I find that this one leaves such a discreet hole that you can fill it if you want, but it's so low profile that you pretty much don't even see it. And then you're going to need some kind of a wood glue. I've just got the LePage Wood Glue Express Quick Dry. It's pretty good stuff. I'm not saying it's the best, but that's what I've got. So, also, if you've got a couple of these, again, they're pretty worthwhile using. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting some glue onto one side of the backing pieces. So not the 1 5/8 side pieces, these are the other ones. And just some sort of flat tool that you can use to basically smoothen out that bead of glue so that it covers the entire thing. Right now it's kind of all over the place. So I just use something flat to kind of make sure I got glue on the entire surface. Doesn't have to be perfect, but the more surface area you cover, I think you're going to get a better bond between the two pieces. So if that strikes you as something that might be important, I encourage you to give that a try. Okay, so it's important that the pieces that we cut first, the 1 5/8 ones, you want to make sure that you're not, okay, let me just demonstrate this. This is the side piece. You do not want to put it like this. You want to put it like this. Okay? And you also want to make sure that you do your best to flush up all these edges so that it doesn't hang over or anything like that. Nothing worse than a hangover. But the other thing is I don't drink anymore. I haven't really had much alcohol for several years, as a fun little side note. Okay, so now that we've got that on there, we should get a towel and just wipe off any excess glue, because if you got any big gobs of it, you're going to have to sand it all off anyways. So if you deal with it now, it's less work later. And if you're like me and you've got another bar clamp available, you should throw it on there in the middle. Okay, so now that that's all in place, what we're going to do is we're going to put all this together. I'm going about every 6 inches or so. Okay. Yeah, so that's the first piece put together. Okay, perfect. So I'm 1 5/8 on, that's the finished side that you're going to see. The picture is going to cover most of this piece, so yeah, that's kind of how that's going to play out. So we got one piece put together. We'll do the other ones here now. Okay, so that is basically where we can get to today. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of measure all four sides, make sure we add that 1/4 inch reveal on all four sides. So basically, if the picture measures 22 inches, we're going to go 22.5 to the inside of our miters. So we'll talk about that tomorrow when we get around to it. But for today, that's as far as we can go for now. Yeah, we'll continue tomorrow. Thanks. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the square picture frame is 22 5/16 tall as well as wide. It's a perfect square. And as I mentioned, what we want is about a 1/4 inch gap on all four sides between the wooden frame and the edge of the picture. So basically that 8/16 is the equivalent of 1/2 inch. So we're going to do 22 5/16 plus the 8/16 or 1/2 gives us 22 13/16 for our measurement on our pieces that we made. So just to verify what that's going to look like, it's going to be 22 13/16 from here to here. So short to short. If you go long to long, it's going to be way too small. So I'll get that all cut and then we'll see how it looks.
Can we have waffles for dinner?
No, buddy, we're not going to have waffles for dinner, okay? Okay, so I've got all the pieces cut with a nice miter on them now, 45 degrees. So again, what I was trying to explain here with this picture I drew is that we are going to measure 22 13/16 from right here down to somewhere's over here, and we'll do that measurement right now. Okay, so now I'm going to just do a little dry fit here, see how this all sits. So that's kind of roughly how it's going to look. Except we're going to securely clamp it and glue it and then nail it so it'll look good. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'll do that right now and then I'll kind of resume the video afterwards. Okay, so this is kind of the next step. I've got all the corners mitered at 45 degrees each, giving us 90 in total. And I've got this, it's called a strap clamp. I didn't even know this thing existed, but Amazon provided as always. So I think it was about $30, $25 maybe. Yeah, so basically it kind of comes with 4 clamps or little brackets or whatever that you put on all four corners, and then allows you to secure it without actually leaving a dent in the wood, which is kind of nice. So I'm just going to fire a couple pin nails on a diagonal on top and bottom on each of the four corners, and then I'll let this dry overnight and we'll resume tomorrow. Alright, so last installment of the video. This is the finished product here. So I've got the picture mounted inside the picture frame, and if you look, you can see that there's about a 1/4 inch gap reveal on all four sides. And so what I found was that the angle of the corners, even though the miter saw said it was set to 45 degrees, it was I think it had drifted a little bit, and so the corners were, I think, a little bit less than 45 degrees, so I had to revisit that and kind of cut those just a little bit to get that to fit properly. But anyways, so what I did was I glued either piece and then put them together, used that strap clamp to secure all four sides together, and then I shot 2 pin nails on each corner just to kind of add a little bit of extra support. So anyways, like I said, taking a $1 picture and just putting a little bit of additional effort into it, and I think it looks quite a bit better. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.